Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Mark Janish. This is the September 12th, Tuesday edition, 2017, of the From the Bench podcast. I'm your host, Mark Janish. You can reach me on Twitter at capital MARK at Access Media. You can also hear this podcast and any other previous episodes on Stitcher Radio and Libsyn. I'm happy to announce tonight, September 12th, 2017, that the front-running and National League West leading Los Angeles Dodgers streak is over. Losers of 11 straight and 16 out of 17, finally, with the help of Clayton Kershaw going 6 innings, actually won a game tonight. 3 runs and 14 hits, no errors for the San Francisco Giants, who left 13 men on base. I'm sorry, it was 11. The Dodgers left 13. The Dodgers had 5 runs on 9 hits and 1 error. That was their stat line tonight. But the Dodgers have still lost 16 of 18 and 11 out of 12. Tomorrow night, the Dodgers will send Yu Darvish to the mound to try to continue a mini winning streak of 1 game. I think last week, my September 7th, 2017 podcast detailed the historicity of the Dodgers and their losing ways prior to 1988. That's the last time the Dodgers won the title. So tonight, I wanted to go ahead and just do some baseball scores for you. The latest that I have, I've given you the Dodgers score, which just came in from San Francisco. The Minnesota Twins, 75-69, won 16-0. Tonight, Castro belted 2 homers for the Twins. The St. Louis Cardinals, making a run in the National League wild card tonight, they actually manhandled the Reds 13-4 over Cincinnati. DeJong produced a big game for the Cardinals. He was 3 for 4. With 2 RBIs, a home run, a double, and 2 runs scored. The presumptive, I guess you would say, wild card participants. The Colorado Rockies 4. The Arizona Diamondbacks 2. If the playoffs were today, they'd be facing each other for the wild card 1 game in the wild card 1 game playoff for the right to move on against either the Nationals or the Dodgers. Gonzalez belted 2 home runs for the Rockies. So Carlos Gonzalez, 2 home runs for the Rockies. This was an interesting game. The Astros limited the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim to 2 hits. Justin Verlander started this game. He went 8 innings. The Astros won. The Angels, fighting for a wild card spot along with the Minnesota Twins, nothing. So they're going to remain where they are tonight. We're going to move on to some other scores. Corey Kluber pitched a complete game for the suddenly very, very warm Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians have won their 20th game in a row. They're now 89-56 and 13.5 games up in the American League Central. Okay, so here's the deal, folks. 20 wins. The last team that had at least 20 wins was the 2002 Oakland A's, and the 2002 Oakland A's were the team that the movie Moneyball was based on. So Speaking of the Athletics, the Boston Red Sox manhandled the Oakland Athletics tonight. The Red Sox improved to 82-62 with an 11-1 victory over the Athletics. Mookie Betts drove in 6 runs for the Red Sox. It was the Brewers 5-2 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Brewers pitchers retired the last 9 Pirates to come to the plate. And on the outside looking in right now, the Seattle Mariners beat the Texas Rangers 10-3. Anomaly in this game was the fact that all 10 Ranger hits were singles. The world champion Chicago Cubs beat the hapless New York Mets. The New York Mets improved to 63 wins and 81 losses. The Cubs making a nice run for the National League Central title. Right now, on a return trip to the playoffs, they're now 78-66. Chris Bryant of the Cubs produced a big game for them. He was 1 of 3 with a home run and 4 runs batted in. The Kansas City Royals overcame the Chicago White Sox. The Chicago White Sox combined 30 games under 500, 57-87. The Royals 4, the White Sox 3. The Washington Nationals and the Atlanta Braves played this evening. The Atlanta Braves prevailed in an 8-0 final. The Washington Nationals headed to the playoffs. They clinched the division about a day or two ago. Freddie Freeman delivered a big game for the Braves. He was 3 of 5 with 3 RBIs, a home run, a double, and 2 runs scored. The Miami Marlins and the Philadelphia Phillies. The Philadelphia Phillies 9, the Miami Marlins 8. Williams with a walk-off double for Philadelphia in the 15th inning. The Toronto Blue Jays, one of those other teams outside looking on the outside looking in, or left on the outside looking in. The Toronto Blue Jays 3, the Baltimore Orioles 2. Urania with a walk-off single for the Toronto Blue Jays. Well. Another topic that I wanted to get to is the battle for Los Angeles. Now, we could take this in a couple of directions. We could say that the battle for Los Angeles, which is the definite marketing campaign of the Los Angeles Chargers in their first season in Los Angeles. But we could also say there's another battle for Los Angeles. The battle for Los Angeles does not only consist of Rams fans, generational versus Charger fans from the days of yore. The Rams coming to Los Angeles in 1946. Great men behind center, Roman Gabriel, Pat Hayden, Vince Ferragamo, Bob Waterfield, and so forth. But there's another battle in Los Angeles going on, and that's between Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold competing for the Heisman Trophy. Josh Rosen coming off of shoulder surgery. UCLA coming off a 4-8 season, 2-7 in the Pac-10. He was shut down last year by Jim Mora, who I still believe is on the hot seat in Los Angeles, because Los Angelinos will support a winner, and so will the rest of Southern California. But if you don't win, Angelinos won't come out to see you for their lives. There's too many other things to do in Southern California other than sit at sporting events, pay exorbitant parking prices, exorbitant concession stand prices, and then you actually have to pay for your ticket to get in the game, of course. Sam Darnold. Somehow the sports media has anointed Sam Darnold as the heir apparent to Lamar. I believe his name is Lamar Johnson. He won the Heisman last year. There is Lamar Jackson, I believe. He won the Heisman last year. There's rumblings he might win it again if he continues to play well. But on the West Coast, we have to put up with Sam Darnold vision. USC, the University of Southern California, more commonly and affectionately and with a lot of love, known as the University of Spoiled Children. Sam Darnold through 2 games, 42-24 win over David Shaw, the Stanford Cardinal last Saturday. 44 of 57, 605 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 1 rushing TD. Now, Sam Darnold has not necessarily been impressive. I think if Western Michigan hangs in there in the second half, predominantly the fourth quarter, they probably go ahead and they beat the Trojans. Now, it's good that they actually got off the schneid, beat Stanford. I love David Shaw. I'm a fan. I think he probably should be coaching in the NFL if he wants it. But right now, that's where Sam Darnold stands in the battle for Los Angeles. Out of Westwood, the home of the University of California at Los Angeles, the UCLA Bruins. Josh Rosen, 57 completions, 84 attempts, 820 yards, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. Saturday, he's going to be going to Memphis, somewhere off of Beale Street. And he's hoping that the only team singing the blues will be the Memphis Tigers. That'll be seen on your local ABC station, American Broadcasting Company. Check your local listings. It'll be 9 a.m. here on the West Coast. I'm going to do my best to watch the game. So we'll see what happens. But that's the latest on the Heisman battle, if you will. But I wanted to turn now to this week's top 25 in the college football rankings for week 3. Right now, as I go over this, Oklahoma, 31-16 winners over Ohio State. The Crimson Tide of Alabama ranked number 1. They're 2-0. A blowout win over the Fresno State Red Wave. It was like 44-10, something along that line. The defending NCAA champion Clemson Tigers, they got a vote this week. They're at number 3. They're also 2-0. USC is at number 4 with a 2-game streak. The Penn State Nittany Lions with Saquon Barkley running the show at running back for Penn State. They're also 2-0. Followed by Washington, another Pac-12 representative. So 2 Pac-12 representatives in the top 10 that I can see. Jim Harbaugh's Michigan squad at number 7. Ohio State at number 8, Oklahoma State Cowboys at number 9, Wisconsin at number 10. The Seminoles of Florida State at number 11, LSU at number 12. 13th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs out of the SEC. They're also 2-0. Auburn Tigers at 15. Virginia Tech, number 16. The University of Miami at number 17. Now, here's the deal on this. I got this little skinny. I got this relative. He's actually my nephew. He's like 26 years old. And he was playing up Miami. Watch Miami, Uncle Mark. I want to see it. I want to see you talk about Miami on the podcast. Well, we might talk about Miami now that I see them as the number 6, 17th ranked team in the top 25 of week 3. Kansas State at 18. The previously mentioned Stanford Cardinal under David Shaw at 19. TCU, the Horned Frogs of TCU out of Dallas-Fort Worth area. They're at number 20. The Washington State Cougars. Luke Falk did a number on Montana. I believe they played Montana was 63-7 last week. 2-0. They fell one spot. South Florida, 22. The Volunteers of Tennessee at 23. Florida at number 24. And then, of course, Josh Rosen and the UCLA Bruins. Notre Dame dropped from the rankings. Others that received votes for this week. Utah, 101 total points. South Carolina, 72. Colorado out of the Pac-12, 66. West Virginia, 63. Oregon, 61. Maryland, 42. Notre Dame, 31. The Aztecs of San Diego State, 16. Houston, 10. Mississippi State, 3. The Boise State Broncos, 3. The Cal Bears got 2. Vanderbilt, 2. Iowa, 2. Texas Tech, 2. And Michigan State got 1. We'll take a look at the coaches poll later in a future podcast, but wanted to go ahead and just touch on those things. So it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the top 25 from the Pac-12. And those of you that are not Pac-12 fans, we understand that East Coast bias exists and all that, but I think that's pretty solid when you have almost half the conference in the top 25. Now, let's address Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams destroyed the Indianapolis Colts minus Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, he's won like 3 division titles, 3 straight years, about 11-5. But he's also been sacked over those 5 years, 156 times. I'm not sure he's ready to come back. I'm not really sure he will come back. Maybe not this year, but he may. Right now, Scott Tolzien, who I'll get to in a minute, is not a serviceable backup for the Indianapolis Colts. I feel sorry for Indianapolis Colts fans. Scott Tolzien is not the answer for you at quarterback. However, I wanted to go ahead and just, hoping we'll be able to talk about some of the Rams statistics. I do have those here. The receiving core. Now, one thing I got to say about the Rams, I don't think the Rams are going to be over 7-9. 7 wins, 9 losses. They're going to play the Seattle Seahawks tough because they always do. Over the last 5 to 6 years, they've always given Seattle problems. But we'll get to Seattle in a later podcast. Probably not tonight, but we'll get there. I've got lots to discuss with them. The receiving statistics. I want you to keep an eye on this guy. Eastern Washington Eagle, rookie. Cooper Kupp. Those of you that are in fantasy leagues across the nation and around the world, pick him up. He's definitely one of those guys that can run a little bit on the outside, and he's going to eat up a lot of yards for you. So he may help Jared Goff. And congratulations to Jared Goff for getting the goose egg out the way. He was 0-7 as a starter. He got his first win as a quarterback in the NFL, and that's not easy to do, even if you are playing the Indianapolis Colts or some bottom feeder second-tier team who might be the Clevelands of the world or the Jacksonvilles of the world, etc. Cooper Kupp, 4 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown, long of 28. He was targeted 6 times. Sammy Watkins acquired in a trade from Buffalo, 5 receptions, 58 yards, 11.6 average, long of 24. Todd Gurley. Now, Todd Gurley, I kind of laugh because he had a bad year last year. I don't know if it was coming to L.A. and spending too much time in front of the cameras with Hardee's and Carl's Jr., eating their food in front of the cameras and shooting commercials, or what was going on there. But Todd Gurley had 5 catches, 56 yards, 11.2 yard average. His longest was 23, was targeted 6 times. Robert Woods out of USC. 3 receptions, 53 yards, 17.7 average. His long of 27. He was targeted 5 times and caught 3. So that lets me know that as far as the Rams go, they've always had a good defense with Robert Quinn. Aaron Donald is back. The fine's been waived. The $1.4 million in fine's been waived. He should play next week. He did not come prepared to play, so he was ruled out of the initial opener. But he has 16 more game checks to collect. So those are the receiving statistics for the Rams. Los Angeles had 2 fumbles, Tavon Austin and Todd Gurley. Both lost fumbles. I want to get to some defensive stats for the Rams. Leading tackler did appear to be Michael Brockers. He had 3 solo tackles and 1 tackle for a loss plus 1 QB hit. LaMarcus Joyner had 4 total, 4 solo tackles. And Alec Ogletree, another veteran lineman for the Rams. 3 tackles, 1 time tackle for a loss, and that was it. So Michael Brockers, LaMarcus Joyner, and Alec Ogletree leading the charge defensively in Week 1 for the Rams. Two interceptions by the Rams. LaMarcus Joyner one more time appearing on the stat sheet. 1 interception, 29 yards total. And then, of course, Trumaine Johnson, who I like a lot. I think he's going to do really, really well for the Rams. He had 1 interception for 39 yards, and it was a touchdown. Los Angeles kick return game, Farrell Cooper and Tavon Austin combined for the 48 yards in kick return. Options, punt returns, Tavon Austin did the majority of the work. 3 of those for 15 yards. His long on the punt return side of it was 8 yards. Greg Zuerlein, 3 for 3 on field goals. His long was 50, 5 for 5 on extra points. So he had he had a productive day, scoring 14 points for the Rams. Johnny Hecker, punter, 5 punts, 43.6 average, and all 5 attempts were inside the 20. He had a long of 47. So those are some of the defensive stats for the Los Angeles Rams. And let me see if there's anything else I need to cover as far as the Rams go. I think that should do it. Jared Goff, 21 of 29, 306 yards. He did get a win. Now, next week, going to be interesting as far as the LA traffic. Next week, the Los Angeles Chargers have a game at StubHub Center in Carson, California, versus the Miami Dolphins and Jay Cutler. Be bringing you some insight into that. Also, you have the Los Angeles Rams playing Sean McVay's old team, in which he was defensive coordinator last year, the Washington Redskins, coming off a 30-17 loss, by the way, to the Cleveland Indians, will be coming to Los Angeles. So basically what you have is you have 2 games going on simultaneously. Going to be a massive traffic jam. So I guess what I would say, you're going to have to really start early on this one, because it's one of those deals that you never know on this. Let's see. All right, so we're going to move on. We're going to move on to some other things tonight. Going to give you some, maybe a little bit, some football scores. Football scores in the form of soccer. What we're going to do is we're going to be taking a look at the Seattle Seahawks later this week. 17-9 losers. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I was going to review for you Week 1 winners. I gave my predictions on the September 7th, 2017 From the Bench podcast, available at accessmediaglobal.com. We'll invite you to take a look at that, and got some nice positive feedback for a change coming out of that. I'm going to go ahead and just review the weekly scores and maybe look at the upcoming Week 2 schedule out of the NFL. I'll give just a moment here for you. Okay, so your scores from Week 1. The Buffalo Bills 21 and the New York Jets haplessly. New York Jets 12. Tyrod Taylor did not have any effects from his concussion that we could see. That concussion sidelined him for 2 weeks. He threw for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns to lead Buffalo past New York. The Oakland Raiders, 26-16 over the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. Derek Carr threw for 262 yards and 2 touchdowns, outperforming once again Marcus Mariota out of Oregon. Amari Cooper caught a touchdown pass, and Marshawn Lynch looked refreshed. He ran 18 times for 76 yards in game number 1. The Pittsburgh Steelers survived a late comeback by the Cleveland Browns. Antonio Brown made a leaping catch with 2:26 left and Ben Roethlisberger threw 2 touchdown passes to Jesse James, his tight end, as Pittsburgh avoided an upset. And yes, I did say avoided an upset. That was a very close game. Divisional game, Steelers 21, Browns 18. The Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions overcame the St. Louis Cardinals. Matthew Stafford, now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, threw 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter. And Cardinal quarterback Carson Palmer, formerly from the USC Trojans, the University of Spoiled Children, Cardinal quarterback Carson Palmer had 3 passes intercepted, and 1 was returned by Miles Killebrew for a score in the fourth quarter. Now, a little note for you Arizona fans, and this pertains to a guy you know. Information that I have was texted to me this morning. Word is that DJ Foster is no longer a New England Patriot. He was signed off the New England Patriots practice squad, 10-man practice squad. He is coming to Arizona because essentially David Johnson, a key running back in the offensive cog in the Arizona offense run by Bruce Arians, is not going to be with the team. He got a second opinion, a broken wrist, surgery, out 2 to 3 months. So, the NFC West, I said the Rams would probably go 7-9. I'm expecting the San Francisco Giants under John Lynch and first-year 49er coach Kyle Shanahan to go about 5-11. Okay. As far as the Seattle Seahawks, who I said we would speak to later this week, 11-5. And they face San Francisco in their home opener next week in Seattle. So we'll be looking for a better performance from Russell Wilson and the atrociously bad offensive line for Seattle. They better get it together at right tackle, or Russell Wilson will be running for his life. Now, for those of you that don't know, Russell Wilson was injured 3 times last year. I'm surprised he didn't get hit worse, but the Seahawks have to do something about that offensive line. They also need to get an identity. Generally, for those of you that don't know, Seattle plays they don't play a cover 2 defense. They play a zone defense with a single high safety. That's usually a guy like Earl Thomas. So essentially what I'm saying is they play zone defense. Guys cover areas. And since guys are covering areas, that means a lot. That means a lot of yards are available in the middle of the field. If you could just hit the soft spots, you can gain a lot of yards in this team. Now, this team last year, I believe, was number 3 defensively, had a lot of injuries, and hopefully the Legion of Boom will get it together. I'm happy with the Sheldon Richardson acquisition. Not so happy with an anemic offense led by Russell Wilson. 14 of 27, 158 yards. Doug Baldwin out of Stanford, 4 receptions, 63 yards. And all the Seahawks could muster was 3 field goals. Now, let me address one other thing before we go back to the scores of Week 1. The Seattle Seahawks were assessed a penalty on an interception by number 92, Nazir Jones. Ran it back for a touchdown. I want to say the replays that I saw, because I didn't really see the play. I was talking to somebody and turned back from the screen. But where I was at, there was like multi-screens, so I was able to get a hold of the tape. The NFL needs to look at that tape, and some of you all need to assess whether you just were, maybe the referee was just mad at the Seahawks, maybe for whatever reason made a bad call. And there's been a lot of them in the last few years, which is frustrating if you've been an NFL watcher. The Jacksonville Jaguars, led by Leonard Fournette, the rookie, ran for 100 yards and a touchdown. And Jacksonville had 10 sacks, 4 turnovers, helped the Jaguars to the win. Blake Bortles threw for 125 yards and a touchdown. Calais Campbell had 4 sacks, and Dante Fowler returned to fumble 53 yards for a score as the Jaguars snapped a 6-game skid against the Houston Texans. Obviously, the Houston Texans would generally be distracted. I mean, if your city was flooded like theirs is, you'd be distracted too. Jaguars receiver Allen Robinson out for the season. Torn ACL. Okay, so he's done. That's been confirmed. The defending NFC champion Atlanta Falcons 23 over the Chicago Bears 17. Let's see if we have some good things to say about that. No statistics readily apparent. The Baltimore Ravens and overcame Joe Flacco's injury and the Cincinnati Bengals under Marvin Lewis. Andy Dalton was intercepted 4 times and lost a fumble, and Cincinnati was shut out in its home opener for the first time. 5 sacks for the Ravens, 3 interceptions for Dalton in the first half. 2 of them were tipped. The Ravens scored a pair of touchdowns within a 24-second span to take control. Dalton was 16 for 31, 170 yards. Joe Flacco, who didn't play in the preseason to rest his bad back, was 9 of 17 for 121 yards and a touchdown. And so good to see Joe Flacco back from injury. I'm not saying he's all the way back, but he's definitely working on it. And, of course, the Carolina Panthers 23 over the hapless 49ers. I mentioned the 49ers, and I would just say that they're going to be 5-11. The Rams will be 7-9. 12 wins will probably win the NFC West. I believe that the Seattle Seahawks will be 11-5, so they have 4 more losses before that blows up my prediction. And then I believe 12 wins will win this division. I'm not sure that Arizona will do it. I'm glad that they have DJ Foster, who I mentioned earlier was signed off the practice squad of the New England Patriots. Former Arizona State star can do some stuff. He can run the ball in the backfield. He can also be run outside as a receiver. And he did both those things very, very well in a very productive career at Arizona State. So happy for him to be back in his home area, number one, but also happy to have him in the NFC West. As far as Carolina and the Panthers, Carolina and San Francisco. The Panthers had 4 sacks and held San Francisco to 217 yards, and they converted 2 turnovers into touchdowns. He was 14 of 25 for 171 yards and an interception. And Christian McCaffrey carried 13 times for 47 yards and had 5 receptions for 38 yards. Just wanted to go ahead and see who was the quarterback stats for San Francisco. Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer led to the Cleveland Browns, 24 of 35 and an interception for 193 yards. So the Brian Hoyer era. See, I thought it was going to be Blaine Gabbert, but apparently not. Apparently Brian Hoyer is the man in San Francisco. And, of course, based on his history of mediocrity in Cleveland, can't look for him to do too much more. So we're going to get to a little more on UCLA. UCLA is playing at 9 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast in Memphis. And hopefully the Memphis Tigers will be singing the blues. We definitely want to go ahead and mention that the USC Trojans will be playing the Texas Longhorns. Why is that significant? The USC Trojans have not played Texas since that fateful 2006 national championship experience in the Rose Bowl when Vince Young and a young Matt Leinart went at it. I want to go ahead and just give you some final scores for tonight. I'm going to be pulling those up here in just a moment. I'm happy you're along on this edition of the podcast, listening on Stitcher Radio, the From the Bench podcast. I'm your host, Mark Janish. You can also listen to the From the Bench podcast here on Libsyn. And also, I will have it posted on my own site at accessmediaglobal.com. We're still working on some changes to the website. Submitted some information to the web developer. That's Gold Social Media of Santa Barbara. I want to go ahead and just give Gabe Pereira some props. We're putting some things together for you. The process has just been a lot slower than I would have liked. In the WNBA tonight, the Washington Mystics and the Minnesota Lynx. Minnesota 101, Washington 81. And tonight, the LA Sparks and the Phoenix Mercury. LA 79, Phoenix, and Diana Taurasi 66. Let me go ahead and just bring up some details on this game for you. The Sparks did have to rally in a playoff opener, 79-66. 8 days layoff. They fell behind early, and they rallied to beat the Phoenix Mercury to open defense of their WNBA championship on Tuesday. Nika Ogwumike scored 19 points to lead 5 starters in double figures in Game 1 of the best-of-5 series. So this is for the Western Conference Championship of the WNBA. Candace Parker added 15 points. She played with 5 fouls most of the game. Ogwumike overcame 4 fouls. Chelsea Gray had 13 points. Odyssey Sims 12. And Alana Beard 11. So it's good to see the Sparks off to a decent start. And they're on the offensive as far as the WNBA playoffs. Game 2 is Thursday night in Long Beach. Okay, so WNBA fans would like to see you definitely get out and do some stuff as far as seeing the games and supporting the WNBA. Let me go ahead and just give you some final soccer scores tonight. Some UEFA action. A lot of games tonight on the soccer pitch. I want to go ahead and just give you those. And then I'm just going to review what you will be seeing on the website outside of the flagship podcast here. Just a moment. We're going to be bringing the UEFA Champions League soccer information to you here in just a moment. All right. CSKA Moscow 2. Benfica 1. Manchester United 3. FC Basel, nothing. Bayern Munich 3. Anderlecht, nothing. Celtic beaten by Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain 5. Celtic 0. AS Roma and Atletico Madrid fought to a 0-0 tie. No score. Chelsea 6. FK Quebec, nothing. Barcelona 3, Juventus nothing, and Olympiacos Sporting CP 3, Olympiacos 2. So that's your UEFA Champions League scores as I have them for right now. As far as the website, we got some Buster-only information. We're going to continue to feature his podcast as the baseball season winds down. Once again, tonight's big stories in baseball. The Cleveland Indians tied the Oakland A's of 2002 with 20 straight victories. And the Los Angeles Dodgers, frontrunners in the National League West, finally broke an 11-game losing streak, 16 losses in 17 games. Finally ended tonight, 5-3 over the San Francisco Giants. We're going to be advancing some NBA coverage. Right now, we just have some Twitter feeds available on the NBA, the Kings, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Warriors. So I'll be featuring some podcasts, Chargers, Rams, Seahawks in the coming days. You'll be seeing those up on accessmediaglobal.com. For now, I'm Mark Janish. This is the From the Bench podcast, recorded in Carpinteria, California for September 12th, 2017. A very pleasant good evening to you, or good morning, wherever you might be listening to this podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more fun and excitement for a Wednesday, September 13th. But for now, it's September 12th, 2017. I'm Mark Janish, and this is the From the Bench podcast. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for listening.